We need to be able to execute the fundamentals on offense, defense, and special teams.
They're going to run a fade, and Rutgers is not fooled. It's blocked. He's done it again.
And then do it over and over and over again.
They're coming. It's blocked.
Because the team that does it better is usually the team that wins.
Live from Quaker Steak and Lube on US 1 in Edison, this is the Kyle Flood Show. Your chance to talk with the head coach of the Scarlet Knights. The Kyle Flood Show is also brought to you by AT&T, mobilizing your world, and by Pepsi. Live in the moment. The beat starts at Pepsi.com. Pepsi, live for now. To be part of the show, call 855-FLOOD-44. That's 855-356-6344. Now, let's go live to Quaker Steak and Lube in Edison. Here's the voice of the Scarlet Knights, Chris Carlin.
Yes, it is another edition of the Kyle Flood Show. Thanks so much for joining us here at Quaker Steak and Lube in Edison on 1450 WCTC in New Brunswick and on ScarletKnights.com. Chris Carlin alongside Eric LeGrand. Good to see you, E.
Hey, good to see you too, Chris.
And
Welcome
the coach
back,
of
Eric.
the Scarlet Knights, Kyle Flood. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to be back here at Quaker Steak and Lube. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight.
And we want everybody to be a part of the program tonight. We've got three different ways for you to do that. First of all, on our telephone lines at 855-FLOOD-44. That's 855-356-6344. You can also tweet us your questions at Rutgers Radio. That's at Rutgers Radio. And finally, if you're here in attendance at Quaker Steak and Lube and you have a question for the coach, by all means, come right up to the microphone, ask your question. We will get you on and ready to go. Our man Jimmy is in the black Rutgers jacket, ready to get you all set up. So, Rutgers preparing for a trip up the Hudson this week to take on the Army Black Knights up at Mikey Stadium at West Point. A terrific scene, 12 noon this Saturday. A beautiful fall afternoon right on the Hudson River, very scenic, and weather looks like it's going to be pretty good. So if you have an opportunity, by all means, come on up and catch the Scarlet Knights on the road taking on Army. And Rutgers trying to find a way to get back into the win column right now as they fell this past weekend at home to Nebraska. Coach, what did you take out of the 31-14 loss to the Cornhuskers?
Well, we're continuing to have some growing pains. I'm pleased with how the team is competing, and I know that we ultimately want to see the results in the final score, and it's the same way we feel as a football team, the coaching staff, the players alike. But the players are continuing to battle. We got down 21. We got it into a one-score game. Couldn't quite pull closer than that. But the team is battling. The young players are getting better. And now we're putting our eyes forward to really one of the great challenges in all of college football. And I say that with tremendous amount of reverence for what they do at the academies, Army and Navy alike. And trying to get ready to play this team in a week is a tremendous challenge.
And Coach, when you have to deal with so many injuries, how hard is that as a coach, trying to prepare the players week to week, trying to get them ready when you do have guys go down, and unfortunately, you've had a lot go down this year.
Absolutely, and you have to first of all create a culture of next man up.
Mm-hmm.
That people are ready to step up and perform. But you're right, the players that are now stepping up to perform don't have the experience of some of the older players, and we're going to see that a little bit on the offensive line this week. Guys like Zach Heeman, guys like Marcus Applefield are going to get significant playing time this week, and I'm excited about that, but I also go into it understanding they're not going to be perfect, and that's just not the way it works. But they're working really hard this week to be as close as they can.
When you are at this juncture of the year, you've always said it, everybody's banged up at this point of the year. But as a coach, how do you handle it? Because you always talk about the importance of practice and preparing, but also trying to keep guys healthy and be ready to go. Where's the balance in there?
Yeah, it's a fine line, and today we had to go a little bit away from what we would normally do this time of year because of the necessity for full pads and tackling to get ready to defend the option. You just can't go out there in helmets and practice for a week and say, okay, everybody's on their assignments. I think you're going to stop this. Eric, you had to defend this offense. As good a job as our scout team is doing, and I think they're doing a really nice job, it still doesn't compare to the speed that we're going to see in those first two drives of the game are going to be critical that we get adjusted. And going in full pads today and going live and tackling during the season, which we hardly ever do, but we just thought it was necessary, and we had a good day of work out there.
I could definitely, commend to that. It's not easy when those first 2 drives are critical to get adjusted to the speed and get used to to see what they're trying to do to attack you wise. But wanted to ask, going back to the injury wise, we've seen Derek Nelson go down as a coach. I want to know how did that affect you, and seeing that happen. For I'm sure the second time now in your career, and it was great to see the thumbs up, and we were sitting up there watching the whole thing, and seeing them give the thumbs up was amazing, and hearing them walk out the hospital was great. But as a coach, what's the first thing that goes through your head when something like that happens?
Yeah, I try to keep as clear a mind as I can. I try not to judge it. I had probably the most fortunate seat in the house because I was out there right away. So I had a pretty good idea right away of the severity of what it was going to be with Derek, and I felt pretty good about it. And right away, he was moving his hands, he was moving his feet, everything was in good shape when we were out there. But as you know, they're going to take tremendous precaution at that point to make sure. And we did all that. And then, I got done what I needed to do with the health center and went over to the hospital. And really, one of the really, really great, I think, scenes in my mind of what this year has been is going to be seeing all the other players at the hospital, with Derek. Guys like Darius Hamilton, Julian Penix, so many others that came over. Chris Laviano came over. So many players came over to see him. Keith Lumpkin, all the offensive linemen came over. It really was a great image that I'll always take in my mind of those guys keeping his spirits up in the hospital. We were able to get Mom on the phone pretty quickly so that Mom knew exactly what was going on. But the most important thing is obviously Derek and making sure that he's good. And we're going to see him back sooner than later. Will it be this week? We don't know yet, but it'll be sooner than later.
Just as you're going through all those precautionary things with Derek in that moment, he comes out of it. I guess just describe the emotions for you at the moment. You said you try to keep a clear head as much as you can, but there had to be somewhere along the way in there where, it's bound to get to anybody, I would think.
Sure, yeah, and it kind of goes in this in this order for me as the head coach. The first priority to me is Derek, and assessing him and making sure that he's in good hands, which he was immediately. And then my next thoughts always go to the parents.
Yep.
Because I didn't know if his parents were at the game, were they at home, and that's as a parent myself, that could be a helpless feeling where you're watching this, and you could be watching it on TV even, and you're saying, okay, that's my son, and I don't know what's going on. So immediately I asked Derek, I said, is Mom at the game? We found out that Mom wasn't at the game, so we got the cell phone. Will Gilkison, I got him over, and then we were able to get her on the phone pretty quick and just assure her that of what was going on and give them the information, because that's the worst feeling. Not knowing is worse than anything.
Eric, we're sitting up in the booth. You're giving incredible perspective on what's going on at the time. But now that we're a little bit removed from it, what's going through your head through that whole thing?
I just remember just going through that whole moment and being on the ground. And when we were up there, we weren't sure what was going on. You said that you got to see his hands move, so we weren't sure what was happening at the time. And I was trying to just explain to the viewers that were listening exactly what I was going through at that time. And I was just trying to be able to catch a gasp of air, anything, I wasn't worried about if I could move at the time, if I could feel anything. It was just trying to breathe. And I didn't know if that was the same thing, that was the situation that was going on down there. And I was just trying to say, it is the scariest moment of your life by far, when something like that flashes in front of your eyes. But the only thing I wanted to do was be able to catch a gasp of air and be able to breathe again. The feeling of not being able to breathe was the scariest thing I've ever felt.
Well, in describing what's going on the other night and having you there and just incredible words that you had as we're going through that. And, boy, we're all thrilled that everything was great with Derek. And we're able to find out on Sunday, at least publicly, that he had walked out and was just fine to go. And prognosis right now is very good.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay. Now, in terms of the rest of the injuries, when you are in this position, we talked about balancing that. Is it harder to get a sense of what you're going to see on Saturday when you're still in the middle of the week in terms of who's going to be able to go and who's not when you have more than just a couple?
It is, and the players fall into a couple different categories. Some guys can't practice. Some guys can practice to a certain degree, limited contact, and then other players are practicing and they're just not quite full speed yet. So there's a couple different categories that they fall into. Over the years, I think you get pretty good as a coach of being able to judge, knowing the player, knowing the injury, having some idea of kind of what you think they'll be able to do on game day. But it's going to be critical that all of these young guys now, and I said before, guys like Zach Heeman, a guy like Marcus Outfield, a guy like Tariq Cole who returned to practice today, who couldn't really do anything Sunday but returned today. It's going to be critical that they're ready to go. A guy like Saquon Hampton in the secondary is going to have to be ready to go. A guy like Najee Clayton this week has got to be ready to go. All these younger players have to be ready to go. I don't know if it's an advantage or not that they're playing Maverick defense instead of our normal traditional Rutgers defense, because they'll be playing that for the first time too. But I know that but they're working really hard to make sure they do a good job at it this week.
And how do you get all those guys, to a certain amount of reps that they need so they are ready if they are called upon?
Yeah, Eric, we go as fast as we can in practice.
Exactly.
You can't lengthen the time, especially this time of year. But you can just try and go as fast as you can. And I think the scout team offense this week has done a nice job. As good, I think, as you can do of trying to simulate it. Chris Parker is the quarterback, and he's done a nice job of running the option. And he's a very shifty guy and tough to tackle. So that showed up a little bit today, too, in the live work.
When you have, we'll get into all the challenges that come with a game like this defensively in just a few moments. But the younger players that you spoke of, it's not only the time of year where they have been around for a while. A lot of coaches say by this time they're not necessarily freshmen anymore. But in terms of handling the schedule as a whole, because I don't know that people always appreciate the time management factor for freshmen. I know when I was a freshman and I wasn't an athlete, I had enough of a problem with that when I had an 8 o'clock class.
Sure.
So how have they as a group handled all of the challenges that come with it?
I think they're doing a good job, but at the same time, I think you also we're a morning practice team, and our team meetings are early, and you could tell you get to this time of the semester, and there's a lot of academic work that's got to get done. There's still game plans that got to be digested, and you do the best you can to try to simplify it for them, because a guy like Quanzel Lambert, who's doing this for his fourth year, it doesn't affect him at all.
Mm-hmm. Right.
A guy like Julian Penix, he's fine. He knows how to do it. He knows how to manage it. But for the freshmen, that's why you don't have that many freshmen that become ultimately impact players, because it is hard. It does wear on you. But I think these guys are doing a good job.
Yeah, and how do you get, they have to get extra filming, and meeting with these older guys and stuff. So you try to advise them to pull away with these older guys and teach them the ropes, kind of, especially, when you have the class schedule, then you have your practices and the meetings. But you need your own time also to watch film, and they need to be taught on what they need to watch, right?
Absolutely. And here's really what it comes down to. You could be great in the classroom, and you could be great on the football field. Mm-hmm. But you can't do those two things if you got a great social life.
Yep.
So something's got to take the back seat, and it's got to be your social life. And telling a 17, 18-year-old that their social life has to take a back seat, that's not always the easiest thing for them to understand. But I think they're doing a good job with it. Like I said, I see the guys around the office meeting with the coaches. Coach Frazier's office is always full. He's got guys like Deontay Roberts in there all the time with him. And, those guys are doing everything they can to get this Maverick stuff down. So I'm pleased with how they're handling it this week. Now we got to go out and execute it on Saturday.
Well, we'll talk about the challenges of that, and they are numerous in just a few moments. Let's take our first timeout of the night. We want you to be a part of the program. Tweet us your questions at Rutgers Radio. Ask your questions here in person if you're with us at Quaker Steak and Lube on Route 1 in Edison. And, of course, you can give us a telephone call at 855-FLOOD44, 855-356-6344. Also, special guest at the top of the hour, whose New England Patriots had a pretty big win this past week over the Giants. Devin McCourty will join us at the top of the hour as well. All of that on the way on this week's edition of the Kyle Flood Show. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Need a place to watch all the pro games? Look no further than Quaker Steak and Lube, Best Wings USA on Route 1 in Edison. 50 TVs, great game day specials starting at just $2, and the best wings in the USA with over 25 different wing sauces. Enjoy our outdoor patio and bar that's open all year round, even in the winter. Give us a call, 732-777-WING. We cater events of any size, dining in or to go. Quaker Steak and Lube, 561 Route 1 in Edison, 732-777-WING.
At AT&T, we're all about the perks, like getting $300 credit per line when you switch to AT&T with a smartphone trade-in and purchase of any smartphone on AT&T Next. That's 3 perks in one. Get all the perks when you switch to the network with the nation's strongest 4G LTE signal. AT&T, mobilizing your world.
Limited time. Each $300 requires a port-in, eligible purchase, activation, and trade-in. $100 bill credit within 90 days. $200 trade-in credit or promo card. Taxes, fees, restrictions apply. Claim based only on national carriers' average 4G LTE signal strength. See store for details.
This is the Rutgers IMG Sports Network.
Consider the cup holder. There's probably one feeling empty next to you right now. No Pepsi, no hope. Just look at it, won't you? All across the country, cup holders are being neglected. Instead of Pepsi, they're being filled with loose change or crumpled up receipts. But you can help. Get a Pepsi and refresh a cup holder's life. Our thirsts are counting on it. In fact, I'm having one right now. Ah, that is refreshing. Pepsi, refresh yourself. Refill your cup holder.
Hey, Rutgers season ticket holders, are you tired of sitting on those hard bleachers with no back support? Then we have a deal for you. For a limited time, you can reserve a night cushion for only $60 for the season. That's less than $9 a game. Permanently attached to your ticket location, night cushions provide padded comfort for your back and bottom that's second to none. So don't wait. Visit nightcushion.com. That's nightcushion with a K.com. Or call 800-729-0445 to reserve today.
We are back at Quaker Steak and Lube in Edison, New Jersey. Route 1 for this week's edition of the Kyle Flood Show. Rutgers preparing for a trip to Army this weekend. Give us a call, 855-FLOOD-44, 855-356-6344. Devin McCourty going to join us in just a few minutes as well. All right, so let's talk about this. It's interesting in the way you've seen, if you're a fan, paying attention to Rutgers when they have taken on Army or Navy over the last several years and how different the defense is for that one particular week. First of all, it pretty much is completely going away from what you normally do. Is that accurate?
It is. You really can't play your normal first and second down defense against what they do in the option. It wouldn't be sound, and I would repeat kind of what I said earlier in the week. You know, I've been, I don't know if you call it fortunate or unfortunate, but I've been fortunate. I see it as fortunate to have coached against this kind of family tree of coaches at a couple different places. Mm-hmm. Years and years ago when I was at Hofstra, Jeff Monken was at Georgia Southern, and we played in the playoffs. Then a couple years later, I was at Delaware. We coached against Georgia Southern, and then ultimately coached against Navy, where Paul Johnson's staff had gone, and then coming to Rutgers, coaching against Navy, and Coach Niatama I think I pronounced that correctly.
Niatama
Ken. I just call him Ken.
Ken.
Coach Ken. But and the challenges of coaching against him, and he is another one from the Paul Johnson school of triple option. And Jeff Monken was with Coach Johnson for a long time. So you're talking about 3 guys who are the best at what they do in the world. You know, when it comes to running this offense, they're the best in the world at it. And as you study it, they've got kind of a package of plays that they use against each style of defense. And each style of defense has its little change-ups throughout the game to try and counteract some of the plays that they'll use to take advantage of the numbers. But it's a great challenge, and it's a lot of fun for us as coaches. And the players have always embraced the challenge everywhere I've been of trying to limit what this offense will do to you. And it's always made for, I think, really good football games.
I want to ask you, I want to bring up the eye discipline stuff later, but I want to ask you about not getting lulled to sleep, especially if you're playing a corner position or even the two inside guys at D-tackle having to tackle the fullback. Everybody, can you talk about that a little bit?
First thing I said this week, don't get bored tackling the fullback. Don't get bored tackling the fullback, because the first time you decide you're not going to tackle him, he'll go shooting through the middle of the defense for 40 yards. And those receivers, it's the same thing. They don't catch a lot of passes, but when they do, they're chunks. And they're explosive plays. And their quarterback does a nice job of throwing it when they throw it. But it takes a tremendous amount of discipline. And then as you cancel the phases, dive, quarterback, pitch, you got to get multiple numbers out there, because they've got multiple blocking schemes, and they're not just going to line up and run the same option play 40 times.
Okay, but take us through it, because the formations rarely change for them. So, first of all, defensive line, and Eric, we'll get into specifics with you with this in a second. Biggest issue is getting off the blocks. Is that fair to say?
The biggest issue is not getting knocked down.
Yeah.
You agree, Eric?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Because they block low.
Correct.
And reading this step of which way, at my position, was where the guard was going. If you take a bigger step outside or shorter step, or the way he tried to get up to the second level. So reading that guard was definitely the hardest part. And as you said, staying on your feet, depending on what type of block he was giving you.
I seem to remember on several occasions, because of the style of blocking, defensive linemen not necessarily leaning forward in their stance, but kind of leaning back and maybe being a little bit more reactive. Is that fair to say?
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, I was more in the squatty stance than I was if I was ready to fire right off the ball, because instead of coming right off, I was reading exactly what he was doing at first. So it's a good way to put it in a little squatty stance.
You could lean forward and fire off the ball. The only problem is you'd land on your face.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it hit you in the leg so hard, you'd have no chance.
The other thing I've noticed, there are times where defensive linemen wear shin guards to kind of protect against the blocking. Is that? Am I giving away too much right now?
No, I don't think so.
Because it's all stuff that we have seen in years past when you've played these teams.
Almost every year that I've been at Rutgers, we've played one of the academies. And like I said, the years before that, at other places I've coached, we've played the academy. So, yeah, I don't think you're giving away any secrets. I think
it's funny wearing the shin guards, too, because I've never worn shin guards before. I never played soccer. I remember having to wear those during the week. You actually have to get adjusted to wearing those things. And especially when we have the knee braces on during the week. But I remember when I got hurt in the game, too. One of the first things I noticed was one of my legs went up. I'm like, I got shin guards on right now. I wonder if people have see that I have shin guards on and a question, like, why is he wearing shin guards right now?
Okay, how about the linebackers? Is it similar in terms of the blocking, or has this just become more about what Eric touched on, the eye discipline?
Yeah, I think it's more about the eye discipline. I don't know that there's a lot of similarities. Like maybe the one similarity is you got to get everybody running to the football. That's just one of the basics of good defense. Is you got to get everybody to the party. But the difference this week is, and you see it, maybe some similarities with some of the quarterback run teams where you got to cancel the phases, dive, quarterback, pitch. But you got to run to the football. But other than that, there's really not a lot of similarities, which is why we've always taken time when we play these teams early in the year. We've taken time in the spring. When we play them later in the year, we take time in training camp. And then throughout the year on Sundays, we take a period every Sunday, and we do it. Because if you get to game week, it's too late.
Yeah, I was going to actually say about how do you lead up to try to get these guys learning as you do. During the spring ball, you get a chance in the summer. But you said you just do it. You try to get a period in there every Sunday so you can kind of get used to it, huh?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And I know that you've been asked this a couple of times this week, but I'll bring it up anyway. You can't necessarily think if you're in a corner or in the safety, you talked about being lulled to sleep. Their receivers don't have a ton of catches, but they're also averaging probably 20 yards a catch.
Oh, absolutely.
Close to it.
17 plus.
Because they burn you for the big play when you do get caught napping a bit.
And it's they've got enough of the complementary plays to not just keep you honest, but to create the chunks. Whether you're talking about passes, play action passes, reverses, things like that. They have some quick hitting trap plays on the inside. So it's not just come down the line and run the option every time. There is probably more formation variation nowadays than there used to be, Chris.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and now you see a lot of tackle over sets, whereas maybe 10 years ago they weren't doing quite as much of that. So there's a little bit more formation variation too nowadays.
Can you bring up the importance of one position that we both know that's very important to this option? It's that safety guy running the alleyway that that we really haven't really touched on. We talked on the D line and the linebackers, but that safety who's playing the pitch man, how important is his position?
No question. The Lorenzo water spot.
Yeah.
You know, Lorenzo, and then, you know, sitting in with the defense today and watching old cut-ups, I saw a guy by the name of Ronnie Geralt.
Oh, yeah.
Roger,
Who used to play that spot. Yeah, oh, yeah. So he used to play that spot as well. So, that position is critical. You know, that guy running the alley, and a lot of times he'll end up on the quarterback, and sometimes he'll end up on the pitch. And there's situations where he ends up on the dive as well.
Is there a greater importance in a game like this of keeping your defensive linemen fresher than maybe in a normal game?
Yeah,
well, I shouldn't say normal game, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think it is. It's going to be a very physical football game.
Yeah.
It'll be a very, very physical football game. Although I do remember, and I want to say it was 2006. I believe in the 2006 Navy game, Ramel Meekins played 80 snaps.
Oh, I remember that game, 34-0.
It was one of the more impressive things I've ever seen a defensive lineman do, and he was a dominant force in that game.
I give him 80 snaps, go to that. And that option to you, that's definitely hard. And I wanted to touch upon, as you said, trying to just stay alive and get people to the ball. That's the most important thing. If you can stay alive, even if you didn't read the right way, you still at least have a chance to make a tackle.
Coach touched on don't get bored tackling the fullback. Is it tough for a lineman? Because it's the same assignment almost every play.
And I was just mentioning, I was talking to Coach Flood right before we came on air in the beginning of the show. I was actually, the week leading up to the Army game when I got hurt, I was actually getting ripped by Coach Miano. First because of my step, and then after a while, like in practice, I saw that the dive didn't have the ball, and I wanted to swarm so I didn't get a loss, but my job was to tackle the dive, so I would put my hand on him, and then I would just go to swarm to the ball, but I was getting ripped. But so you have to tackle the dive every play.
I remember before you got hurt in the game, you recovered a fumble. Did you force that fumble in that game?
I had a third down play. It was a 4th and 1 when I was able to shoot into the gap, and I was able to dive into the field. And I was able to force the fumble, and I believe Scott actually recovered it.
Oh, okay. Well, it's an interesting week to be sure, and you mentioned that they are the best at doing it in the world. Boy, the discipline really is the buzzword this week, isn't it? Because that's what they are all about in their lives. And I always go back to this, and you say this every year whenever you're playing an academy. Practice is their fun part of the day.
It is, and I've never forgotten that. The guy I worked with years ago mentioned that in a staff meeting. We were getting ready to play Navy at the time. He had worked at Army, and he says, don't ever forget that. For these kids, practice is the easiest thing they do all day.
Did you ever get that visit, actually go around campus and see what their campus is like up there, Coach?
No, I haven't. And, I've had the honor of coaching against Army or West Point, at West Point 2 times. Mm-hmm. Both games have been at night, and both games have been 2 of the most miserable weather games I've ever experienced in my career. Cold, wet, snow, rain games, and so, what Chris said, it looks like it's going to be a nice day, and it's a 12 noon kickoff. This will be a first for me.
Yeah, and it is an incredible scene with the cadets, and being, as I said, it's right on the Hudson River. You will, if you're going to the game, and you'll be impressed. Well, we've got a lot more to discuss with the matchup with Army this coming weekend, but when we return, we will speak with Rutgers' all-time great defensive back and currently of the New England Patriots, Devin McCourty, going to join us in just a few moments on the telephone. A lot to do on this week's edition of the Kyle Flood Show as the Scarlet Knights prepare for Army. Stay with us. We're at Quaker Steak and Lube in Edison, New Jersey. We're coming right back.
Thanks to Mountain Dew Kickstart, 3 bros are about to become more than just a bunch of couch bro-tatoes. The energizing blast of dew and juice is entering their mouths. Soon they'll be sliding across the dance floor as if it was strewn with appeals of bro-nanas. Then this trio of bromios will recite sweet broetry into the ears of any dame that will listen. These guys are bro-fessionals. Let's do this. We're coming, world. It all starts with a kick. Mountain Dew Kickstart with dew, juice, and just the right amount of kick. Now available in 6 flavors that taste good.
Need a place to watch all the pro games? Look no further than Quaker Steak and Lube, Best Wings USA on Route 1 in Edison. 50 TVs, great game day specials starting at just $2, and the best wings in the USA with over 25 different wing sauces. Enjoy our outdoor patio and bar that's open all year round, even in the winter. Give us a call, 732-777-WING. We cater events of any size, dining in or to go. Quaker Steak and Lube, 561 Route 1 in Edison, 732-777-WING.
This is the Rutgers IMG Sports Network.
You know where to tune in for the game, but do you know how to bring the game home to you? When it comes to commemorating the experience, IMGProducts.net has you covered. IMGProducts.net is the place to go for official programs and yearbooks from NCAA championships, conference tournaments, and many of the nation's top universities. Relive games and championships for years to come with quality programs containing stats, behind-the-scenes stories, history, and much, much more. IMGProducts.net. We've got you covered.
Looking for the best trained in the electrical business? Look no further. Our members of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Local Union 456 go through a 5-year nationally recognized apprenticeship program along with OSHA safety certifications, producing the best trained and most up-to-date electricians in the area. Fiber optics, high voltage, lighting retrofits, solar energy, healthcare facilities, school construction, data centers. We do it all. We are also proud to be one of the first building trades locals to be recognized with a drug-free workplace program. We at Local Union 456 are like Coach Flood and the Scarlet Knights, trained and proven to get the job done.
We're back at Quaker Steak and Lube in Edison, New Jersey for this week's edition of the Kyle Flood Show. Chris Carlin alongside Eric LeGrand and the Rutgers head coach Kyle Flood on 1450 AM WCTC in New Brunswick and on ScarletKnights.com. Our pleasure right now to go to the phones and welcome in Scarlet Knight, great defensive back, and of course, he's having a great year again with the New England Patriots. His whole team is. Big win over the Giants the other night. He is Devin McCourty. Devin, it's Chris with Eric and Coach. How are you?
I'm good. How you guys doing tonight?
We're good, Dad. We're good. I want to ask you, what was it like being back in Jersey this past weekend?
It was cool, man, running into you. Of course, I know you're everywhere in New Jersey. And then also seeing Brian Malice, Kevin's brother. So a lot of familiar faces. Always fun playing back in Jersey.
You know, we're talking a lot about preparing for Army this week and preparing for the triple option. What do you remember about having to deal with that when you were here?
I remember at first it wasn't fun knowing you're going to get cut all game.
Hey, Dev, that seems to be the overriding opinion of everybody today is the cut blocks there.
Hey, no one liked when the shin guards came out for practice. But no, you just knew you were going to have to play 4 quarters. They're always a tough football team. They play hard every snap. And then, you know, that triple option, you know, if you're not on point each snap, you never know which play will break the game open. So I just remember having to really be in tune to what we had in our game plan and being ready to go X and O.
Yeah, Chris was just bringing up how their receivers are averaging 17 yards pretty much a reception, and how as a cornerback you have to rely on not pretty much getting lulled to sleep because they don't pass the ball a lot, but when they do, it's for big plays. So got any advice for the younger guys that are going to have to deal with that this week?
Yeah, I would say eyes. You know, playing the triple option, whether you're a corner, safety, linebacker, your eyes are going to tell you everything you need to know. And I remember first eyes, second eyes was the phrase each time we played Army or Navy in that triple option, just because, you know, at times cornerbacks are going to be asked to play in the run game against a triple option. But, you know, the times they do throw the ball, they're usually trying to create a big play. So just let your eyes take your feet and your body where you need to go.
Dev, it's been a terrific season for you guys so far, undefeated as we know. The win the other night, a very good one. Tom taking you down the field as usual, but just take me through Eric touched on it, but the idea of being able to come back here, play in that stadium, and be able to be a part of something as special as you have been up there over the last few years.
I mean, it's always special playing back home, you know. Going to Rutgers, anytime you go back home, you know, I always get, you know, I like you because you went to Rutgers and you did great, but I hate you now because you're on the Patriots. So I don't think it would have been good for us to come back to New England, not getting the win last Sunday. You know, everything, all the big games we played in with the Giants coming out on top, you know, with the different games we've won, that's always a lasting memory in everybody's mind. So, in true New England and Giants fashion, another game right down to the end with a bunch of tough plays made by players. So it was a pleasure being there, and every matchup is always big against those guys.
Why do you think, Dev? Why do you think those games with you and the Giants always come down really to that last drive of the game? What do you think it is?
I just think both teams are kind of made up the same way. Old school head coaches believe in hard work, conditioning hard, getting the team prepared. I think they both harp on, watching film, knowing your opponent, respecting your opponent, and I think the players kind of take on the same mentality. So, I think throughout that game there was momentum swings, there were ups and downs, but I think both teams truly believed that they had a chance to win, no matter what happened, that they were going to get that opportunity. So I think that's why it always comes down to who executes, in that last 2 minutes, minute and a half of the game, and that's usually the team that comes out on top.
Yeah, Dev, I want to take you back to that Super Bowl win, and not many of us get to experience that feeling. Can you just explain that whole feeling? I remember watching the video on NFL Network of you flying down the field with your helmet off, screaming. Just can you bring us back to that moment of when you won the Super Bowl and being out? That's what all our goal is when you play the game of football.
It's crazy just being involved in it. I have no kids, but just everyone, when you talk to them, they say that's the best feeling other than seeing your kids born, and you can't even explain it. That me running down the field is just screaming because it's something you work for. In my case, for 5 years, you just keep working, and then it finally happens, and it's like, well, what do I do now? Well, look at my teammates and let's just keep screaming at each other, hugging. So it's a great feeling, and it's a weird feeling because after you get it, only thing you want more is to get that feeling again. So I think that's what continues to drive our team and make us work so hard.
Devin McCourty with us on the phone. Hey, Devin, it's been the joke over the last few years, but it's really not, that New England has become Rutgers North. What is it about the Rutgers connection that draws Bill Belichick to so many of you guys up there?
I mean, I guess you got to ask Coach Flood. They say if the well-coached kids come out of Rutgers ready to play. So whatever we're doing at Rutgers, I think, our staff here understands when they get guys from there that are well-coached. They understand the game of football. They understand, how to get on the field right away in different positions. So for me, it's been great. When I first came up here, it was no guys, and I look around now between Duran, Logan, and Freen now up there. It's like I'm back in the old locker room. It's better now because Freeney's a little closer to my age. When Logan, too, came, I still felt like the old guy with the young bucks coming in.
Devin, you could tell me if I'm right about this or not. I haven't worked in that league. I've got some friends who work in that league, and it seems to me that in that league there's such a high premium on guys who can do these two things. They know how to prepare through the season, and they know how to contribute on special teams. And I've always felt like the guys that came out of our program knew how to do that. They were ready to walk into a room, to absorb a game plan week to week, be ready to play a football game, and they valued special teams. And it just seems like that league is craving for those type of players.
Yeah, I mean, all we talk about here is the more you can do. And that's the best way to first make a team and then to stay on the team is finding out everything you can do, not just, on your side of the ball. Because when you're young, sometimes you got to sit. You got to wait your turn to get out there. And like you said, Coach, being able to take what you learn sitting down in a classroom setting and be able to transfer it onto the field is huge. A little different in college where, you might be on a scholarship and, you might get a year or two to learn. You got to be able to take this stuff right onto the practice field throughout the week and into the games, or you might only get 3 or 4 games to prove you belong and be gone. So I think it's being able to handle that pressure, preparing, and then going out and performing in all phases of the game.
And Dav, you mentioned the locker room before. What is it like now having 4 Rutgers guys in the locker room to now have people back you up when you're sitting there? I know you guys get to junk talk in the locker room a little bit. So what's it like having 4 people in there from the Scarlet Knights?
You know us, E, man. We run in the locker room. We're usually 4 of the loudest guys. The big games come up. then everyone gets mad because there's nothing but Rutgers shirts on. Sometimes we sneak them out, wear them under the pads at practice. So it's cool, seeing just having the other guys there, and then all the trash talking we get to do with all the other guys, especially now being in the Big Ten. We got so many guys from different schools in the conference, so the trash talking really never stops.
Deb, one or two more for you before we let you go. Rutgers has, at this juncture, so many younger defensive backs that are having to play right now, just in terms of the roster. You got the chance to redshirt, but when you were a young defensive back, think back to that for a moment. What advice would you give the younger guys who are pressed into action right now?
I would first say you got to learn to be resilient. When you first get out there, every couple of years you get a guy that just gets out there and naturally just performs at a high level. But, for most of us, it's a learning process. First being out there, things are happening extremely fast, and you got to just learn to be resilient. You got to learn to hang on to every word the coaches are throwing at you, because eventually you'll start to see a change in your game where you're not just out there seeing people running fast and reacting to everything everyone's doing. You start anticipating, you start slowing the game down in your head. But I think that comes from, that resilient nature, that no matter what happens, I've just got to keep getting better. And then hanging on to every word your coaches say. I think college is a unique time where, when you get to the pros, you don't get as much one-on-one time and individual coaching technique time. The weeks happen fast. Teams do so much in the NFL. You got to really game plan and talk about what they do. But in college, if you're able to just listen to your position coaches, you usually can, get better within that year, week by week.
One last one, Dev. You and J-Mac, Jason, of course, with the Titans, continue to do great work with your Tackle Sickle Cell Foundation. You guys do a couple of huge events throughout the year. Just tell us about how important that is to you to continue to be able to give back.
Oh, it's huge. And I thought for both of us it was very important to start it, back in the Jersey and New York area, being from there, going to high school there, college there. Just felt that's where our roots were, and we continue to put that first and try to, just keep spreading the word on sickle cell and getting people involved. So it's really been a humbling experience just to be a part of it and, be able to run into families and just have a conversation with them and talk to them. And, they're just so thankful for everything that's happened with Tackle Sickle Cell. So it's been a blessing to be a part of it. You learn more sometimes about yourself than you think you will when you're doing good things. So Jason and myself, we've been blown away by the success of the campaign and, just trying to keep doing good work.
Hey, Dev, you did an event last year in New Brunswick that really almost turned into a Rutgers football reunion. I had a lot of fun being there that night. Is there going to be another fundraising event this year coming up in New Jersey?
Yeah, we'll be right back in New Brunswick, probably right at Brother Jimmy's in February, doing a casino night. So no stopping here. We're going to continue to keep it going.
Good.
Well, Dev, it's terrific to see you continue to have great success, and we know how much you feel that your experience at Rutgers really played a role in that, in preparing you for where you are now. Congratulations, and we certainly appreciate a few minutes.
I appreciate you guys having me on. I feel like I'm back being a celebrity in Jersey, hanging out with you guys.
Hey, that'd be Eric you're talking about.
I don't know what you think. Hey, good luck, Dad, except for versus my Broncos. You know that.
Yeah, I already know.
Oh, my goodness. Even the Rutgers ties aren't as thick as his Bronco ties. That's unbelievable.
Thanks, Dev.
All right, John.
Take it easy, Dev.
Take care. Devin McCourty of the New England Patriots and, of course, one of the all-time great players in Rutgers history. We'll take a timeout, come back. We've got a lot more to discuss. It just comes to mind right away. Bill Belichick called him the smartest player he has ever coached.
Hey, I'm going to tell you this, something people don't realize. I don't know if the people really appreciate how great a special teams player he really was. And Jason as well. But I remember Devin's senior year, whether it was returning kicks, the flyer on the punt team, He is just something else now.
He had to at least have 3 or 4 blocks, either
Oh, no
punts
question.
or field goals.
No question.
Had a kick return against
For a
Connecticut,
touchdown.
I believe. Didn't even get touched. I mean,
He
was,
made a play as a flyer.
I'll take credit for that one.
No shock there. He made a play as a flyer where he was double pressed. He beat the press. He got down there before the ball. The punt returner caught the ball. He stripped it and then recovered it. Wow. It was one of the more remarkable special teams plays I've ever seen. I mean, he could dominate a game on special teams.
You know, it's one of those things that when they talk about recruiting and they talk about stars and all that stuff, I always remind them, Devin McCourty and Jason McCourty are the reason I don't pay attention to it.
That's 2 good reasons right there.
No question. We'll step aside. More to do as Rutgers prepares for Army this weekend. Let's take a time out. You're listening to the Kyle Flood Show.
Need a place to watch all the pro games? Look no further than Quaker Steak and Lube, Best Wings USA on Route 1 in Edison. 50 TVs, great game day specials starting at just $2, and the best wings in the USA with over 25 different wing sauces. Enjoy our outdoor patio and bar that's open all year round, even in the winter. Give us a call, 732-777-WING. We cater events of any size, dining in or to go. Quaker Steak and Lube, 561 Route 1 in Edison, 732-777-WING.
Hey, Chris Carlin here, and as the voice of your Rutgers Scarlet Knights, I see the fans' passion for our hometown team come to life every Saturday in the fall. UPS shares this same passion for helping businesses turn a challenge into a solution, because they're not just in the shipping business, they're in the problem-solving business. Visit ups.com/solvers to see how UPS can help your team find the winning formula. UPS, official logistics company of Rutgers Athletics.
This is the Rutgers IMG Sports Network.
This commercial is brought to you by Brother International, the makers of fax printers, multifunction printers, scanners, sewing and embroidery machines. Brother is always at your side.
You can make business cards with your name, print from hiking, hang in frames, sew some shades, block the sun, keep out creepy peeping toms. With Brother at your side, always good times. You got a brother at your side, and whatever follows always ends up in good times. You can make a basket cover for your cat, another for his brother, so they both match. No more mess, make the best label, all relieve that stress. Brother's always undercover and always around. 106 years, better keep on counting. You got a brother at your side, and whatever follows always ends up in good time. With the brother at your side, with the brother at your side.
We're back at Quaker Steak and Lube in Edison, New Jersey on this week's edition of the Kyle Flood Show. Rutgers taking on Army Saturday at noon at Mikey Stadium up at West Point. And we'll have all the coverage for you on the Rutgers IMG Sports Network, beginning with Rutgers Allstate Insurance Countdown to Kickoff at 11 a.m. And the game will air on CBS Sports Network. That is a 12 noon kickoff, as we said. Let's hit the telephones. Our telephone number is 855-FLOOD-44, 855-356-6344. Bill in Highland Park, you're on the Kyle Flood Show. Bill, how are you?
How's it going, Coach? Motivating the team during a rough season like we're having can be tough. How do you keep the team, and specifically a player like Hayden Reddick, motivated after, he has to go watch the guy in front of him perform well and know there's really not much confidence in him to go and perform any better?
Well, it's not a lack of confidence in him. It's just decisions that you have to make as the head coach. And I think, like, when you talk about motivation begins in recruiting. You're making sure you're recruiting the right players. You make sure you're recruiting competitors. And that's what we have, and that's exciting. And then, we've got a group of offensive players right now that are motivated because they want to perform better than we've performed. So they're motivated by that. And we've got a defense right now that's motivated because of the system that they have to play this week to defend the option. Like, when you play a team like Army or Navy, immediately the urgency level goes up because they understand exactly how critical it could be for everybody to do their job and for their eyes to be in the right place.
We've got a couple of questions on Twitter for you, Coach. Our buddy Scott Logan. Coach, Army's got a couple of close losses this year, including one to Penn State. how important is it not to overlook them despite what their record says? Well, I mean, you look at those scores and you understand why. I mean, I hate to put it this way, a lot of teams dread this week because it is so different.
Yeah, I don't think there's any concern about that whatsoever. We put the film on. We've got a tremendous amount of respect for them, and winning major college football games is hard. Going on the road, it's even harder, and there's a unique challenge this week of adapting to this offense.
All right, another question on Twitter from Chris Nowoski. Coach, will more backups and younger guys like Isaiah Johnson or Dante Owens earn more playing time over the last couple of weeks of the season?
It could happen. I think this week it could happen just because of the injury situation we have. You may see some younger guys out there, a little bit banged up at different positions. But we're going to play these games to be 1-0 each week, and that's the only way we can. That's the only way that I know how to play them.
And Coach, I want we've been harping on the defensive side of the ball. Can you talk about the challenges that Army's defense presents for you guys on offense?
Yeah, very aggressive on defense. The 3-4 structure. They play some 4-down fronts. A lot of pressure, a lot of safety support coverage. So they're going to give you opportunities for one-on-ones on the outside, and you got to match their aggressiveness. You got to match their physicality. Because they do a good job running to the football.
And one thing that they certainly do not do is get a lot of penalties because we know they are disciplined.
They're very disciplined.
With all that in mind, with their defense, as you talked about what they do semi-schematically there, but also in terms of the formations, when you have a situation like this where they are quicker, they are more disciplined, not necessarily quicker than your team, but they are a quick team, not necessarily a big team. Is it just all about taking advantage of your physicality that you have?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to take advantage of whatever you think the matchups, whatever matchups you feel like are in your favor, and for sure that's going to be part of it. But they're going to force you to play with a great motor, because when you play against players that are a little bit quicker, a little bit faster, maybe as opposed to players that are bigger, well, you better be moving your feet faster to stay on those blocks, or you're going to get holding penalties and things like that are going to show up. I think we're going to be well prepared for that. This is not, for a lot of teams, when you say like they dread this kind of game, I know where you're coming from. But I think those are the teams that don't play them every year.
Right.
I think for us, again, the last 11 years, we probably played 8 or 9 times. We've played the academies. One year we played Army and Navy the same year. So I think our players are in a mode where it's obviously not a conference game, but it's a team and a program we're very familiar with, and a system we're very familiar with.
And you talked about when you get those one-on-one opportunities, how big is it going to be for somebody maybe like an Andre Patton to have a big game, or Carl Nagadosi if he does get his chance, or Janorian Gray. We know how good he is making plays. So how big is it for other playmakers to be able to make a play besides like Leonte Carril?
I think it's critical. I think it's critical that you have to take advantage of those opportunities. Because just like they do with their play actions, they don't do them a lot. But when they complete them, they're chunks. Those are chunk plays. And teams that are good on offense, they have those chunk plays, and we've been missing that.
In playing them as often as the program has, I know always has been a big focal point with Coach Shiano and certainly with you over the last few years is honoring the commitment that those kids have on the other side of the ball and what they mean to our country beyond just this game on Saturday, and always showing an appropriate amount of respect for that. Just for you personally, as close as you've always been in terms of honoring our veterans like we did last week, the military ties, all that stuff, Coach, just explain to us how it became just such a big part of what you want to do.
I think for me, it really comes down to this. When you think about this group of young men we're going to compete against this Saturday, we're going to compete like crazy for 60 minutes in that game, maybe longer. But when that game is over and you go across and you start shaking their hands, you need to remember that these are going to be the people that are defending our country, that are defending our freedom as you go forward. And I've got a tremendous amount of respect for the people that are willing to do that so that I can live and my children can live the life that I live in this country.
And can you talk about what it's like singing an alma mater or their alma mater after the game just as a sign of appreciation?
I think it's one of the great traditions in college football. The opportunity to go over to the core and sing I don't know the words, so we
we
we listen.
Exactly.
We listen to them sing their alma mater. But then they always come back with us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we go over and sing ours, and they come back, and they do that with us, which I've always appreciated that as well.
When you look at everything going on in the world these days, it's awfully easy to recognize just what the sacrifices those young men do to protect our country.
No question.
Well, we'll take a timeout. We've got more to discuss with the coach as they prepare for Army this coming Saturday. The Scarlet Knights headed up the Hudson to face the Black Knights. Let's take a break. You're listening to the Kyle Flood Show.
At AT&T, we're all about the perks, like getting $300 credit per line when you switch to AT&T with a smartphone trade-in and purchase of any smartphone on AT&T Next. That's 3 perks in one. Get all the perks when you switch to the network with the nation's strongest 4G LTE signal. AT&T, mobilizing your world.
Limited time. Each $300 requires a port-in, eligible purchase, activation, and trading. $100 bill credit within 90 days. $200 trading credit or promo card. Taxes, fees, restrictions apply. Claim based only on national carriers' average 4G LTE signal strength. See store for details.
Need a place to watch all the pro games? Look no further than Quaker Steak and Lube. Best Wings USA on Route 1 in Edison. 50 TVs, great game day specials starting at just $2, and the best wings in the USA with over 25 different wing sauces. Enjoy our outdoor patio and bar that's open all year round, even in the winter. Give us a call, 732-777-WING. We cater events of any size, dining in or to go. Quaker Steak and Lube, 561 Route 1 in Edison, 732-777-WING.
This is the Rutgers IMG Sports Network.
Hey, Rutgers season ticket holders, are you tired of sitting on those hard bleachers with no back support? Then we have a deal for you. For a limited time, you can reserve a night cushion for only $60 for the season. That's less than $9 a game. Permanently attached to your ticket location, night cushions provide padded comfort for your back and bottom that's second to none. So don't wait. Visit nightcushion.com. That's nightcushion with a K.com. Or call 800-729-0445 to reserve today.
Honey, did you take care of the party rentals yet?
I drove by Miller's Rentals on Route 1, but it looks like they've closed. We'll have to go someplace else.
No, according to Facebook, Miller's moved to a bigger space at 160 Fieldcrest Avenue in Edison, but their phone number hasn't changed. 732-985-3050.
Great, I'll call now.
Miller's Party Rentals, tents, tables, chairs, linen, staging, and more. Now at 160 Fieldcrest Avenue in Edison. 732-985-3050. Visit MillerRentals.com. Like us on Facebook and receive a discount on your first order. Go Millers!
Couple of minutes left on this week's edition of the Kyle Flood Show. And as coach in this game against Army this coming weekend, you've got some pretty big groups who are making the trip up to catch the game.
We do, and I think you know, you've heard me say this before, I'm a fan of regional football. I think college football at its best, and this is not the reality of college football now, and college football has become what it's become, but I think regional football always creates a different kind of excitement when your fan base can travel to and from the game the same day. I think it's a great experience. My brother, I think everybody knows now, is a former sergeant on the NYPD emergency service. He's got over 40 people coming from the NYPD.
Wow.
People who worked in ESU with him and their families, they're coming. They got a bus, and I've got a buddy of mine, Rob Moriarty, who lives up in Riverdale in the Bronx, and he's a postal policeman. He's got 3 buses, over 100 people coming.
Jeez.
And somebody that I'm going to put on the spot right now, because she's here tonight, Carrie William, our women's golf coach, she will be there or she'll never be invited back to the radio show.
Well, Coach, we will see you on...
There you go. You're on the show, Carrie.
We will see you this coming Saturday up at West Point.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
Hey, good luck, Coach.
All righty. Thank you.
He will talk to you on the broadcast.
Sounds good.
Want to thank our producer and engineer on the radio side, Paul Schrager, getting it done as usual. Back in our Rutgers IMG Sports Network studios, John Essick. And on ScarletKnights.com on RVision, Colin Osborne. And, of course, Tim DeMartin. And from the Rutgers Athletic Communications office, it's both Jimmy Gill and Hasim Phillips. It is
nice job, Haas.
Rutgers and Army this coming Saturday, 12 noon on the Rutgers IMG Sports Network at 11 a.m. We will see you this coming Saturday. Have a great week, everybody.
You've been listening to the Kyle Flood Show, live from the Quaker Steak and Lube on US 1 in Edison on the Rutgers IMG Sports Network. The Kyle Flood Show has also been brought to you by AT&T, mobilizing your world, and by Pepsi. Live in the moment. The beat starts at Pepsi.com. Pepsi, live for now.